So I'll call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Breezy Point City Council. The sole topic on the agenda is to hold a public hearing for the road improvements on Winter Trail from Logging Lane to Shady Trail and Scenic Overlook from White Overlook to Shady Trail. At this point, I will call on the engineer to present the details on the project at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully everyone signed in. I think Kathy caught you all when you were coming in. This is a public hearing, as the mayor indicated. Everyone looks like they have a handout. I'm going to go through this handout. At the end of it, the city council will have an opportunity to first ask any questions, make any comments, and then, as the mayor said, it is a public hearing, and so you will have an opportunity. But let me first go through the handout, give you some information on the proposed projects, and hopefully answer some of your questions, and then at the end we'll have the questions and comments. The steps that I'm going to go through tonight here are on the first page, page 1 of 11. I'll talk a little bit about a special assessment process. There are certain steps. Brief history of this potential project, the proposed improvements that the city is contemplating, everyone's favorite, estimated costs, what the special assessment approach is in the city, schedule, and then construction issues if the project should move forward. Kind of close it out again, reminding everyone of the process in an assessment project. And then, as I said before, questions and comments. So on page 2 of 11, we've listed here a summary, and if anyone's really eager to read Minnesota State statute, they can go to chapter 429. It's a little longer than one page. We've tried to summarize the different steps. I'm not going to read through this page for you, but I do want to at least let you know that we're early on in the process. The state mandates at least 2 hearings. This is going to be the first of 2 mandated hearings. The improvement hearing, I think, is what the statute calls it. A lot of people call it preliminary assessment hearing. And so that's the stage that we're at tonight, number 4 there. And I'll cover this again at the end on what future steps there might be. On page 3 of 11, just a quick brief history here. Some information on the different subdivision areas that we're looking at sometime after platting. Those roadways were constructed. They were gravel surface roadways with some provisions, various provisions of handling stormwater runoff. I mentioned stormwater runoff because when it comes to roads, people don't necessarily notice it, but water and drainage is very, very important to maintaining the infrastructure, maintaining the investment in roads. On June 1st, the City Council directed us, Whitsett Smith Nulty. I apologize, I think I started off without introducing myself. Tim Hool from Whitsett Smith Nulty. They authorized us to do what's called a feasibility study. If you read through that previous page a little bit, that's one of the steps in a special assessment hearing process. And then here on August 3rd, they called for the hearings that we're at. Go ahead and sign in, please. Thank you. There's a handout right next to the sign-in sheet. Okay. Yep. Thanks for coming. On page 4 of 11, we've got a map of the city with the 2 roadway segments that the city is looking at paving. So just to get your bearings there for everyone. The Scenic Overlook from Shady Trail up to White Overlook, and then Winter Trail from Logging Lane up to Shady Trail. On page 5, the proposed improvements. There will be some clearing and grubbing, not a significant amount. Right now, the right-of-ways are fairly cleared and grubbed, which is good from a drainage perspective. But there might be, in some cases, and we don't have a design completed. This is really just a study, kind of a big picture look. But we do want to let people know sometimes there could be some trees and stumps cleared and road. The main part of the proposed improvements is to basically pave the roadway. We would first start out with what we call sweetening the class 5. We don't anticipate that we're going to have the construction contractor remove the whole road bed. That they should just be able to come in and do some blading, do some grading, and what we call sweetening of the class 5. You won't necessarily see a whole new 4-inch layer of class 5 aggregate surfacing. It might be 1 to 2 inches. They would blade that off, they would roll it, compact it, and then they would come by and do the paving. And the roadways are about 20 feet wide. Everybody can go out with a tape measure and find a slightly different width. But we're looking at roughly 20-foot wide paved surface. The city does have standards for having aggregate shoulders, so we would put aggregate shoulders there. And then we would address any drainage. Again, in our tertiary review at the study stage, the drainage is pretty good. There are some driveways that don't have driveway culverts, but they're maybe at the top of a hill or a crest. Don't need a driveway culvert, so we don't anticipate a lot of expense in that regard. And then we would have the contractor put back any topsoil and seed on areas that they would disturb. Again, we don't have a design completed, so I can't answer specific questions about what might occur in front of people's houses. But in general, going through the project corridors, this is what we can anticipate. On the next page, everyone wants to know costs. Again, we don't have a design, we don't have contractor bids in hand, but we have looked at previous projects the city has done and other cities have done in this area that are of similar nature, and we've estimated the project costs. They can vary. You'll see in the schedule here, we're not anticipating getting bids on these until later this year or early next year. So the bidding climate could change between now and then, we'll have to see. We will obviously have a tighter estimate as the process moves forward. We're looking at about $122,000 for scenic overlook and about $69,000 for winter trail. And then how are those costs split up? On the next page, page 7 of 11, the city has a special assessment policy, and they break out the costs. The 100% of the roadway costs are broken out along the roadway footage, along the benefited property owners. And basically we use a per lot approach. For building site is another phrase that's been used. If you're on a corner, you might get specially assessed a full 1 special assessment now, and then in the future, if your other roadway would get paved, then you would be given a credit, 0.5 or 50% credit, even though you have roadways on both sides of your corner lot. In the middle of the page, 7 of 11, you can see for scenic overlook, we put the estimated project cost. We counted up those number of lots, accounting for anything that may have been previously specially assessed using that 50% credit, and we came up with a cost per lot. Estimated special assessment per lot of $5,305. Did the same process for winter trail. Very close, $5,310. This is the process that would be used should the projects continue forward. Somebody invariably will pull out this sheet and say, well, you told me it was going to be $5,305. This is the process that's going to be used. The council would look very closely at these estimated project costs versus the bid costs before proceeding. So let me go back through, let me hit a couple more pages before I go back through the process. Page 8, anticipated schedule. We're not going to attempt to bid this project now and push the contractors into a tight window, which usually results in higher costs. What we're going to do is go through these process steps. get a design done, and then look at construction in 2016. Again, we haven't decided when construction would occur, and realistically, we haven't decided whether all of the roadway segments are proceeding or not. But should they proceed, you would see construction in 2016. What part of 2016 we haven't yet decided. Construction issues, again, a little premature, but I always like to let people know that construction does create some mess at times. There's dust. You won't be able to drive right into your driveway every single day if you're on a construction project. We'll have the construction contractor work with property owners on access, postal pickup, trash collection, things like that. This is an opportunity too to ask people if they have anything in the right of way. My wife and I years and years ago plowed in our own irrigation system. It's kind of like exterior wallpapering actually. We barely made it through our marriage doing that, but I told my wife that, well, we're out in the right of way with part of our sprinkler system, and she didn't understand that if the city came by, it's their right of way. She said, well, it's our yard. I said, well, yeah, we take care of it, but it's still the city right of way. So if anybody has anything in the right of way, it's always good to let the city know in construction project situations. Sometimes there's health concerns. We've had some projects where people have been physically disabled and needed special assistance, and we're always able to, if we know it, we're able to work that into construction contracts. So I mention it now, again, we're early on in the process, but should these projects continue to move forward and you have certain concerns, don't hesitate to let the city know and we can try and address those. Closing up here the presentation part, I'm looking at page 10 of 11. So we're at this preliminary special assessment hearing in number 4. Number 5, the council will consider comments, input, both verbal tonight, written, that they may have received. Obviously, they have to look at the big picture of the city and their budget and the goals of the city. They will, I'm told, on September 8th at their regular city council meeting, they're tentatively set to consider whether to order the design and preparation plans. Should they do so, we would then put together plans and specifications. In number 6, we would then publicly bid the project, find out what the bidders say the contract cost is going to be. The council would kind of look at those bids, compare them to this preliminary estimate. If they're pretty close, we would hold the final assessment hearing. Time-wise, I'm talking probably the winter time, most likely, in number 7 there. Number 8, they would take input at that hearing if they believe the project should continue to move forward even after the hearing and the input. They would approve the special assessment roll. We would explain during that final special assessment how special assessments are paid, and they would order the project in, and then it would be constructed. That's a quick rundown of a state statute process. And maybe I'll just mention too, final assessments. The state statute allows either special assessments to be paid in full or over a time period at an interest rate that the council would set. So some special assessment projects, people like to pay their special assessment right away, not have any interest charged. Other people want to kind of dole out the payments over a certain number of years at a rate that they could afford. So that's the quick nutshell version of how special assessments are paid in number 7 and number 8 step. Page 11, to sum it up, this is a legal public hearing. Written comments are acceptable, verbal comments are acceptable too. Like I said earlier, the council is going to have an opportunity to ask any questions or clarifications from me. And then I turn it back over to the mayor, and then he would recognize one person at a time. Make sure you state your name for the record, and address also for the record, and then give your comment. The mayor might impose time limits, give everyone a chance to comment, and maybe do a second round if need be. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I guess I would turn it back to you to see if the council had any
Thank
questions.
you, Tim. We'll take questions from the councilman. Councilman Bakken.
I have none at this time.
Councilman
I have
Williams,
no
anything? Councilman Schmidt.
Just a clarification, if I might, Tim. The folks who would be impacted by this project aren't going to know the hard number assessment costs until like the 1st of February, is that?
Roughly that time, yeah, that number 8, I think it was, on the page 10 of 11. So it would be during the winter time. Yeah, number 7, when we hold the final assessment hearing, notices would be sent out with that hard number.
If there is a vast departure from the estimate to after the bids have been received and we know what the true and correct number is going to be, does the council have opportunity to put the kibosh on the project?
Great question, and I kind of flew by that pretty quick. On page 10 of 11, you are correct. The council does vote to have the final assessment hearing. Should the bids come in, higher than estimates, which would then, like I said before, the process is to take the bids and divide it by the lots to come up with a per lot special assessment. Should those numbers come in higher than anticipated, the council has a tough decision to make. They can, either say, well, we're going to have to stop the process, we're not going to go forward, maybe rebid it, look at a different set of improvements, something. Or B, they might say, well, this is probably the best that the city's going to see, and make a decision to move forward and then address, the issue of slightly higher costs than previously estimated. I've had councils go both ways depending on the level of improvements and the bidding climate.
Thanks, Tim.
Councilman Brony.
To build off of Otto's questions, if we do move forward after the public hearing today and order the plans and the bids do come in, and we do not move forward with it, the property owners are not assessed anything at that point, correct? It's only if we move forward with the final project?
That's correct. Right now, the city is paying the freight, so to speak. It's a process that I guess I've never had a city not do construction and then special assess the study costs.
Yep. Thank you.
Any more questions, comments? Okay. At this point, I will open it up to the floor, and anybody wishing to provide comments, please come up to the microphone, one at a time, please, and state your name, address, and your comments. Who wants to be first? Does anybody want to be first?
Maybe they're all happy with it.
Yeah.
I'll jump in.
Okay.
My name is Shannon Newman. I live at 7851 Winter Trail. I actually have a few questions. My first question is, when is city water and sewer proposed for our area?
That is a question I do not know, and I cannot really answer at this point from the standpoint of we do not have any plans at this point to be putting it into that area. So we haven't really broached the subject. It wouldn't be, Tim, we haven't really talked too much about that.
Right, Mr. Mayor, it's a great question. When the Roads Committee, Public Works Committee meets, they do try to consider whether or not sanitary sewer may be in the foreseeable future. These particular roadway segments did not fall into that category. The city right now doesn't have a super definitive, in 2016 this is going to get sewer, in 2017 this is going to get sewer. However, in looking at those factors, these roadways were, I'll say, far enough out that the question about sewer
Right.
and water was
And
not a-
the fact that this is only a partial pavement, if one's city sewer would come in there, it would entail a separate construction project to bring that in.
And was my reasoning
Yeah.
for that question is why wouldn't we wait and do this all at once?
Because that project is so far out that the need is there to get the road paved.
Okay, currently there's only, I'm on, like I said, on Winter Trail.
Mhm.
There's only 7 homes with rather new septic systems, 13 lots.
Right.
I guess I don't understand why we wouldn't wait to do this until that area has smart road.
I think the answer to that question is, with the maintenance and we've had problems, or people have complained about problems specifically at the far end of Winter Trail. In the wintertime, it gets icy, and they have a hard time getting up that little hill because it gets icy, because we can't plow the gravel portion of it as close as we can the asphalt portion.
Are you referring to going up the hill?
I believe so.
Okay, I live right there. I actually
Okay.
swing to make sure I get in my driveway,
Yeah.
that going down that hill.
Mhm.
So I do understand the concern of that. With that being said about the maintenance, how much, can you give me a dollar amount about how much it does cost to maintain that gravel road? And if so, why can't a portion of our assessments see a 40-60 split or something to where we as citizens are not getting hit with the full assessment when, you're saving money on the road itself by now blacktopping it? Why can't we see a little bit of a savings with you looking at, okay, we spent $40,000 a year maintaining these 3 gravel roads, just round numbers. Why can't you give us that 40,000 towards this project and give us something for what we're getting, which is just blacktop, which half of us really don't want?
The short answer to that is not the way the procedure is for putting on a blacktop. We do assess 100%. If we don't have any, in the procedure, we don't have any split of the cost. Joe, do you have any idea as to maintenance cost on that? I don't think we have that split out. It'd be hard to tell.
I did some calculations for gravel that we discussed in our road committee meeting. I'd have to look at the footages to come out, but a paved road is not cheaper for us. They cost more money to maintain than a gravel road.
Why are we doing it?
It's because most people prefer it. It's superior drive. It's easier to maintain as far as snow removal, no dust. Some people prefer that and some people do not. Generally, it's looked as an improvement. It improves the property one. Personal opinions vary.
Okay, then my last concern, I guess, would be that road right now, Winter Trail, and like I said, I live coming down the little hump. I'm the first one I always say where blacktop ends, that's me. Well, you come down that road, and people generally go kind of slow, but people coming from the opposite road, Shady Trail, I believe it is, they fly on that thing. I mean, it is like a NASCAR race out there. We have cops live right next door to me. They didn't care. As soon as you blacktop that, it's going to get worse. And what's going to what are you going to do to calm that effect of people now thinking it's a train track? It's already bad.
If there's issues with people speeding on that, that can be taken care of.
I lived there for 10 years and
Okay.
had a cop live right next door to me, and it didn't matter. I'm just saying, it's
Wow.
something I have witnessed for 10 years. And it's adults, it's not just kids. People drive fast on that road.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else?
I'm not sure what you say, but my name is Diane Lanto, 7884 Scenic Overlook. And I guess I would say I am in favor of tarring Scenic Overlook. The dust is pretty hard on my asthma. and I would prefer that. And as far as the winter, it would be nice to have that big hill being able to be not quite so icy. I mean, you know, it would have at least a chance to maybe turn into tar by the sun instead of just solid ice.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak.
My name is Robert Birga. I live at 7874 Scenic Overlook.
Can I get the last name again, Robert?
Birga, B-J-E-R-G-A. These guys probably,
I'll stop you numerous times.
I know you have.
That's him.
I got two brothers in law enforcement, so he knows them and me too. But anyway, here's the deal. Anything like this, it always gets down. The bottom line is money. Nobody wants to spend the money. The lots that are there, the forfeited lots on Scenic Overlook. Now, there's $5,000 or $5,300 estimated. Now, does that go against that property? Is that how it works?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're assessed $5,300. Does that mean when they come out to tax your home, is now value is now $5,300 higher for tax purposes? The value of the property? You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How does this work? That's my question. Are we automatically $5,300 above what we are now? Or just, certainly it doesn't stay the same, because all of you agree that if you pave the road, the value of the property probably is going to go up. But is it based on the 5,300, or is it just a percentage? Or is it anything?
Mr. Mayor, I think the quick answer to that is the way the county applies the tax values on the property are primarily based on sales, what they call comparable sales in the area. Whether the road is paved or not may or may not influence what those comparable sales do, go up, go down. That's basically a market-driven.
Well, and you're right. That's exactly right. But that's my point. If you're going to put $5,300 on these tax forfeited lots, and you look at how you schedule them here in the city, are you going to just put $5,300 on that? Because you just put $5,300 more into the property. Now, does that make the price of that forfeited property up? And if that's the case, why wouldn't it work for a homeowner in the same situation? You follow me?
I think I'm following you, and kind of what Commissioner Schmidt was alluding to is that, yes, it does increase the value of the property, and because a property on a gravel road, for the identical property on a gravel road and a property on a blacktop road, the property on the blacktop road would be incrementally a little bit more valued than the one on the gravel road.
Mr. Mayor, if
Now, hold it.
I think I know where you're leading. Can I try and address the question?
Okay, go right ahead.
So, okay, I'm taking a stab at this, so bear with me on this. So, let's say there's a tax forfeited property that's valued at $10,000, and I want to sell that tax forfeited. We're trying to sell it for $10,000. Now, if we put this assessment of $5,300 on there, it does not mean that the value of the property went to $15,300. The property may go up a little bit to maybe $12,000 versus the $10,000, but the $5,300 is still sitting on the property as a special assessment. So if that property were to sell, it'd have to pay the $5,300 special assessment and what the market value of that property is now, which might have increased by $2,000, just throwing out numbers for arbitrary. So it did not increase by $5,300, it increased by a percentage based on the market, but they still owe the $5,300 as a special assessment on the property.
Well, who pays the $5,300 on tax forfeited land if
At this point, we do.
We carry it.
Breezy
We carry
uses
it.
We carry it
We
till
carry
it sells.
we carry that burden until the lot sells, which then the city gets that reimbursement back.
Right.
Okay, so what you're telling me is right now, property that's on paved roads are paying more of tax than us people with gravel roads? Or not? Or is it all about the same?
Probably a little
Bit
bit, because
higher?
your assessment is slightly higher because you're on a blacktop road, paved road.
Well, again, I think I know it's a money deal. Unfortunately, I'm not concerned about the money because I want the paved road. As far as, special, how they work it, is it a separate payment each year? Or is it on your tax form, or how does this work?
Yeah, the answer to that is you can either pay it up front,
Yeah.
$5,300 up front,
Right.
or you can have it assessed to your tax roll, in which case you pay for it over a period of time, but then you have to pay interest on that.
Okay, but on your tax form, is it gonna show a special assessment on that?
Yes.
Would that be considered part of the tax for?
Special assessments are not considered part of the tax.
They're not. Okay, so it's not a deductible thing as far as.
Technically not, no.
I'm retired, I'm 69 years old, so,
Yeah.
But, and what's common for the interest rate?
What do we do on the snowman?
I don't remember the interest rate that you folks passed on the.
Pretty low.
I mean, we could look up that document.
Yeah.
just
I wanna say it's
don't
4 or
remember off the top
5.
of my head.
Yeah,
4 or 5.
No, 4 or 5%?
something like that.
Paid over a period of how much time?
What?
15 years.
15 years,
Oh, 15 years.
yeah. So it's just a few dollars that you,
Yeah, right.
essentially. a year.
So a yearly cost, if you went 15 years, would be what? Well, you have a calculator that can figure it, or, it's pretty easy to do. Well, 5%?
I wanna say my assessment on Snowman Circle, the assessment was about 7,500, give or take a couple hundred, and I think the assessment roll will be about $750. So
Yearly?
Yes,
For 7 years?
15 years.
Oh, 15
15
years.
years.
So on $5,300,
Around 450.
Yeah.
How
Plus
much?
the interest, around 450 plus the
$450 a year.
plus the
About
interest.
approximately.
And we'll have that number on the once we have the hard numbers of what that exactly will look like as a breakdown of the 15. If you choose not to pay it up front, on that final notice, I'm 99% sure, yeah, it'll show you exactly what you'll pay each year.
And you can pay it off early or whatever.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's all I have for
Okay,
questions.
thank you.
Good questions.
All
Any
right.
good questions? Anybody else?
My name's Joellen Hanson, and I live at 7799 Scenic Overlook. I respect the issues that we have. I live right on the hill. I've got a teenage son that, with their cars, it's hard to go up and down. I've had kids go backwards the one way to zoom up so that they can get up the hill because of the ice. And I've had kids in ditches that I've had to pull out, and I've had kids because of the ice with the gravel. So I appreciate wanting to pave that for that. I do want to thank the city because I have had gravel wash away. And a lot of times I have called up and I said, my driveway's washed away. They've come out the next day and filled the gravel. So I really want to thank you for that. What I'm wondering is with the assessment, when would you have to pay it? At the beginning of construction, middle of construction, end of construction? When would it go into effect?
It wouldn't be until after construction is complete and the costs are assessed to either to the tax roll, and like I say, you would have your choice to pay the whole thing off at once, or you could have it assessed to the tax roll and then you'd pay it off over a 15-year period.
Okay, and roughly, like with the construction, do we know how long it would take? Is it like a 3-month
Oh, this
project?
is just an
6
overnight
months?
construction. That's
Oh, yeah, overnight, blink your eyes and it's there.
For this type of project, what time frame would we about looking at?
I'm kind of looking at Councilmember Maroney there. The Snowman Circle that was done, was it about a week of disturbance? I think they came in, maybe it was a little longer than that because they didn't hit everything exactly at the same time, but That's what I'm gonna estimate, maybe a couple weeks. You know, they might come in and do some blading and graveling, then you might not see them for a while, a few days, and then they come in and do the paving. The paving should just take one day, but there's some prep work and then some gravel, shoulder, and then topsoil work. So it could be a disturbance spread out over a couple weeks.
Weather dependent on the
Yes.
timeline.
Yes, if we get snow in July, we have a problem. Anybody else?
I'm Pam Massey, and I live at 7950 Winter Trail. And I just wanted to say I've wanted this to be our road to be paved for almost 10 years now. So I'm extremely relieved that there's talk about doing it, and I do hope it goes through, because that would be great. I'm tired of washing my vehicle 3 or 4 times a week, and I think when I do sell the house, it's going to be a benefit. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I will close the public hearing at this point. And council members, do you have any further comments or questions after hearing the comments from the public? Start with you, Councilman Williams.
I'm glad to see mostly people are in favor, because when I drove it and it's so washboardy, I would have just been praying for it to be blacktop.
Councilmember Schmidt.
I think it'd be worthy to just state for those of you here that when the city developed its most current comprehensive plan, one of the objectives in that plan was to pave the roads in the city and do it under some kind of a sequential way that seemed to make sense. And part of the concerns were doing those roads that were a long ways off from receiving sewer and water. You know, we wouldn't be concerned about putting down the pavement and then having to come back a few years later to dig it up to put in the sewer and water if that eventuality ever takes place. The other thing we considered, Michael and I comprised the roads committee for the city, was where we had roads where they were half paved. You know, you look at the 2 roads we're looking at now, you got pavement and bingo, it stops. And we thought it would probably be a good idea logically to continue finishing the pavement on that particular roadway, that it would make sense. But eventually all the roads in the city will be paved. I mean, it's a matter of having the money and the, you know, the inclination to get it done, and we're wrestling with that right now. We'd like to pave more roads for the reasons that we cited here this evening than we're currently capable of doing. But we're, you know, a small city. Even though I think we're the 3rd largest city in this county, we still don't have, you know, the kind of wherewithal that it takes to go out and do a major bonding project, for example. The council was not in the mind of going into long-term indebtedness to go out and pave the streets. I hope that makes sense to you, but that's some of the things that we think about when we deliberate in the committee to consider what we're going to bring to the full council for recommendation. And this is what we did this year. We brought these 2 roads.
Nothing further to add.
I would basically, Otto just got done saying what I was going to be saying at this point, was that part of the goals that we have set for the next several years is to incrementally pave and improve the city roads, excuse me, and to do a little bit each year without having to take on a large amount of debt. We didn't want to, we wanted to have a pay-as-you-go program, and part of the comprehensive plan update that is in progress right now, I tasked the road committee to come up with a list of priorities. And the priorities are, you know, on what we refer to as low-hanging fruit. This is, you know, roads that can be paved with minimal cost, with minimal interruption to the city. The other priority is roads within 1,000 feet of the water. So in other words, it's in the shore impact zone. We want to do that to minimize the pollution that is running into the lake. And then we want to look at extensions of the sewer system where it's feasible, and to coordinate that with the road improvements. And just as Otto said, in some areas, the cost is such that it will not impact very much the cost of bringing in sewer at a much later date. We do have some issues with the sewer infrastructure as far as expanding it and building it to handle a lot more homes. So that is going to be a separate project altogether. So I appreciate everybody coming tonight, and we will be having the assessment and the awarding of the go, no go at our September council meeting. So if there's no more comments, meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.